Atlanta had barely cooled off from the storm of Yandy's receipts, but the silence coming from one man's side of the war was deafening. Fans were watching, waiting, whispering about when Mendeecees was finally going to step in. For weeks, he had stayed quiet, letting Yandy hold her own, letting the blogs drag Rasheeda and Kirk without interference. But the thing about silence is, it only lasts until the streets demand a sound, and Atlanta was demanding. The hashtags weren't just about Yandy anymore. They started including Mendeecees' name. People wanted to know where he stood, how he felt about his wife being dragged, and whether the man known for keeping it calm was ready to break character and let the truth fly. That moment came one late night on Instagram Live. No warning, no flyer, no, join me at 8 p.m. Just a sudden notification, Mendeecees Harris is live. Within minutes, the room filled with thousands. His face was calm, his tone low, but the weight in his words carried more fire than a screaming match ever could. He started with Yandy, looking into the camera and saying, "One thing about my wife, she don't fold." People try to question her character, drag her name, throw shade about her body, her loyalty, but the reality is, she been solid. She stood by people who wouldn't spit on her if she was burning, and y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. The comment section exploded. Fire emojis, preach, and protect Yandy flooded the screen. Then he shifted his tone, tilting his head slightly, his voice firming up. "Rasheeda, I ain't gonna say too much, but loyalty is free. My wife sat at tables with you, broke bread with you, treated you like a sister. And you sat in confessionals dragging her breath, her body, her marriage. That ain't friendship, that's fraud." It wasn't loud, but it was cutting. Every sentence landed like a knife. Atlanta had heard Rasheeda get dragged by fans before, but hearing Mendeecees call her out made it different. It wasn't just women-to-women shade anymore. This was family war, but the real blow came when he turned his focus to Kirk. For years, Kirk had been the ghost in the room, quietly standing beside Rasheeda while letting her take the hits. But that night, Mendeecees pulled him into the light. And Kirk, my brother, I'ma say this respectfully. Stay in your lane. Don't let your silence fool you into thinking you can dodge this. You encouraged that woman to keep quiet while she was bashing mine, and you thought I wouldn't speak? Your history speaks for you, bro. You the last one who need to be talking about loyalty. The comments went feral. People started posting clown emojis, old memes of Kirk's cheating scandals, reminding the world of his illegitimate child storyline, his years of embarrassing Rasheeda on TV. The live became an instant classic. Fans clipped it, reposted it on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Blogs titled their posts, "Mendeecees breaks silence, defends Yandy, warns Kirk." The shade wasn't messy. It was strategic. Calm, precise, deadly. Yandy didn't have to clap back anymore because her husband had stepped in and turned the loyalty war into a couple versus couple showdown. Rasheeda saw it instantly. She scrolled through the clips being shared online, the hashtags piling up against her name, and her chest tightened. For weeks, she had been dodging, ignoring, hoping silence would buy her time. But now it wasn't just Yandy against her. It was Yandy and Mendeecees, a united front, standing tall while she and Kirk looked fractured and weak. Her phone buzzed with messages from friends telling her to respond, to clap back, to at least defend herself. But every draft she typed sounded like an excuse, and excuses don't stand against receipts. Kirk, on the other hand, wasn't about to let Mendeecees have the last word. He didn't go live right away. He never moved with urgency. Instead, he appeared 2 days later on a podcast, sipping water, smirking like nothing could touch him. When the host asked about Mendeecees' comments, Kirk chuckled. "Look, man, I don't do internet beef. If bro want to protect his wife, that's cool. But me and mine solid. We don't need to defend ourselves every time somebody want to trend." That's the difference between building for show and building for life. The clip went viral instantly, but not in the way he hoped. Fans dragged him for being smug, for deflecting, for pretending like his marriage hadn't been the blueprint, for public humiliation. Comments flooded the video. Not Kirk talking about building when his house been shaky since 2012. "Bro, you've been embarrassing Rasheeda for years, sit this one out." And in that moment, the war lines were drawn clear. It was no longer Yandy versus Rasheeda. It was Harris versus Frost. 2 marriages, 2 legacies, 2 families on opposite sides of Atlanta's biggest loyalty war. The blogs coined it Couples Court, painting Mendeecees and Yandy as the power couple defending their throne, while Rasheeda and Kirk scrambled to keep theirs from collapsing. The fallout was immediate. Fans started hashtags like Chatham Team Harris and Bard Team Frost, though the balance was painfully one-sided. Team Harris trended for hours, filled with fans praising Mendeecees for finally speaking up, calling him the blueprint for how a man should defend his wife. Meanwhile, Team Frost struggled to find traction, drowned out by clown emojis and old clips of Kirk admitting to cheating. The court of public opinion had already chosen its favorite, and it wasn't Rasheeda and Kirk. But if Atlanta knows one thing, it's that wars don't end with one battle. As Mendeecees' words echoed through the city, Rasheeda sat quietly, her fingers trembling over her phone, knowing she couldn't stay silent forever. And Kirk, smug as ever, didn't realize that his attempt at shade had opened up a new wound. The streets were ready to exploit, because if Mendeecees wanted to talk about history, the people were more than ready to replay every ugly chapter of Kirk's past. And just like that, the stage was set for the next explosion. Atlanta couldn't stop replaying that clip of Mendeecees calmly checking Rasheeda and warning Kirk to stay in his lane. It was everywhere. Twitter threads breaking down every word, TikTok edits with dramatic music, YouTube bloggers analyzing his body language. The streets had crowned him a hero overnight. Fans were calling it the classiest drag in love and hip-hop history. But the thing about Atlanta is, once the blogs smell blood, they don't stop. They keep digging, they keep dragging, and they never let old wounds heal. And the biggest target wasn't even Rasheeda anymore. It was Kirk. Kirk thought his podcast shade would make him look above it all, but instead, it ripped the bandage off his old scandals. The comments under that podcast clip weren't just fire emojis. They were receipts. Screenshots of his side baby scandal resurfaced. Clips of him confessing to cheating during Rasheeda's pregnancy went viral again. Memes of his I need a DNA test storyline filled timelines, with captions like, "Stay in your lane? Sir, you've been swerving since season 1. Fans dragged him mercilessly, calling him the last man alive who should be talking about loyalty. And the irony wasn't lost on anyone. Mendeecees, who had once been called out for his own issues, was now being praised for defending Yandy, while Kirk, who had humiliated Rasheeda for years, was being dragged as the architect of betrayal. Rasheeda tried to stay strong, posting a polished picture in her boutique with the caption, "Solid women don't fold. I stand tall in truth." But the comments tore it apart. Truth? Sis, you hiding behind clothes again. The same solid woman who sat in group chats shading her friend? Not you using the boutique as cover. Every time she tried to redirect attention to her business, fans brought it back to betrayal. And worse, people started clowning her brand, posting pictures of rainbow dresses and writing, "Sis, loyalty ain't the only thing that's cheap." Meanwhile, Yandy stayed unbothered. Her posts were filled with calm shade like, "Real recognizes?" Real and fake always exposes itself. Every caption was short, cutting, and perfectly timed. She didn't even need to call names because the streets were doing it for her. Fans flooded her comments with crowns and fire emojis, calling her Queen Harris and praising Mendeecees as husband goals. The power couple energy was undeniable, and the more they projected unity, the weaker the Frosts looked by comparison. But the twist came when an anonymous page dropped what they claimed was an audio leak. The muffled recording sounded like Kirk's voice, low and serious, talking to Jasmine. "You just gotta keep it cool. Don't say too much about you and Rasheeda being close. Let people think what they want. It'll die down." The voice on the other end laughed, sounding like Jasmine saying, "They ain't ready for me anyway." The clip was short, fuzzy, and unverified, but it didn't matter. The streets believed it. The blogs reposted it with titles like, "Kirk coaching Jasmine, audio leak sparks new drama." Fans lost their minds, accusing Kirk of not only betraying Rasheeda in the past, but now orchestrating her betrayal of Yandy. Jasmine's name shot back into the mix like a grenade. She hadn't spoken since her smug live, but the leak painted her as plotting, sneaky, and messy. The comments under her old posts filled with clown emojis and snake emojis, with fans calling her the true villain of the loyalty war. And while she stayed quiet, the silence only made her look guiltier. People demanded she go live again, begging her to address whether the voice was hers, but she didn't. And in Atlanta, when you don't deny, you're guilty by default. Spice tried to wiggle her way out of the conversation, but the receipts dragged her back in. Old clips resurfaced of her saying she didn't know why friendships ended, clips where she smirked while pretending to be neutral. Now fans accused her of knowing about Rasheeda and Jasmine the whole time. Bone emojis flooded her comments, people calling her the bone carrier-in-chief. No matter how many times she laughed it off, her name stayed stuck in the middle of the war, painted as the one who delivered gossip like bombs while pretending to be innocent. The Frosts were drowning. Kirk's smugness turned into silence. Rasheeda's boutique posts were overrun with hate, and Jasmine's name became poison. Meanwhile, the Harrises were thriving. Mendeecees and Yandy's couple photos went viral. Their calm responses turned into inspirational quotes, and their fans turned them into the blueprint for how to move in Atlanta when the streets come for you. People even started tweeting things, like, "I want a Mendeecees to defend me like that," turning him into a meme of loyalty. But Atlanta never stays quiet for long. The same anonymous page that dropped the audio posted a teaser, claiming there was more to come. They promised to release a second recording, longer, clearer, and even messier. Fans braced themselves, blogs scheduled emergency live streams, and the city buzzed with anticipation. If the first audio was enough to drag Kirk and Jasmine back into the fire, what could the second one do? And that's where the cliffhanger landed. The Harris versus Frost family war was no longer just shade and screenshots. It was becoming a full-scale expose. With one leak already shaking the city, the next promised to finish the job. Atlanta was waiting like it was fight night. The anonymous page that had already leaked one messy audio clip now promised a second drop, and the city couldn't breathe until it hit. The blogs were counting down, podcasts were live streaming in anticipation, and fans were glued to their phones like it was a pay-per-view event. Then it happened. A 6-minute audio file surfaced, and this time the voices weren't muffled. Clear as day, you could hear Kirk talking low, his words deliberate, telling someone who sounded undeniably like Jasmine, "Just don't say too much about you and Rasheeda. Y'all keep it cute, let people think it's nothing. This whole thing will blow over if you don't give Yandy no fuel." Jasmine's laugh followed, sharp and smug. "Please, they ain't ready for me. I got way more on her if I really wanted to shake it up." That was it. The audio confirmed everything Yandy had been saying for months, and worse. It painted Kirk not as a bystander, but as the puppet master pulling strings behind the scenes. The internet detonated. Hashtags trended instantly. Chas Kirk exposed. Chas Jasmine mess. Your Rasheeda ruined. Clips of Kirk humiliating Rasheeda on TV years ago were stitched into TikToks with the caption, "This man never changed." Memes flooded timelines, dragging him for being the loyalty coach when he had none. And poor Rasheeda, who had tried to stand tall through silence, was now collapsing under the weight of betrayal layered on betrayal. Fans weren't just dragging her for being messy with Yandy. They were clowning her for being married to a man who orchestrated her downfall in real time. Rasheeda finally broke. She went live late one night, eyes puffy, her voice trembling. She tried to explain, to say the audio was out of context, that people were twisting things, that she was tired of being dragged. But the comments didn't show mercy. Context? Girl, that's your man coaching your messy friend. You married the scandal, sis, that's the problem. You chose Kirk over loyalty, and look where it got you. Instead of sympathy, her live became another viral moment of humiliation. She ended it abruptly, tears streaming, but the damage was irreversible. Atlanta had already made its judgment. Rasheeda was finished. Jasmine, as always, leaned into the villain role. Instead of denying the audio, she posted a selfie with the caption, "Unbothered Queen." It backfired instantly. Her comments filled with snake emojis and people calling her the gravedigger of friendships. Fans labeled her the messiest player in love and hip-hop history, a woman who didn't just wreck homes but also wrecked reputations for sport. And while some applauded her for being unapologetic, the majority turned her into a walking cautionary tale about what happens when clout chasing goes too far. Spice thought she could escape. but the new audio dragged her name back into it. At one point, Kirk's voice mentioned, "Spice already knows what's up. She just playing neutral for cameras." That one line was enough to drag her reputation through the mud again. Fans declared her the ultimate bone carrier, the silent instigator who smiled while the fire spread. She went live to deny it, swearing she had nothing to do with Rasheeda and Jasmine's alliance. But the comment section drowned her in bone emojis, clown emojis, and fans yelling, "Caught!" in 4K. Meanwhile, Yandy and Mendeecees were glowing. They didn't even have to say much. The receipts, the audio, and the breakdown of their enemies did all the work. Still, they delivered the final word with elegance. Yandy posted a video, her voice calm but sharp. "Loyalty built this house. Betrayal can't burn it down. The truth always comes to light, and God don't miss." It was the kind of line that goes beyond reality TV. It was a mantra, a declaration, a closing statement. Mendeecees followed with a photo of him and Yandy, hand in hand, captioned simply, "Solid, always." The contrast was stark. On one side, the Harrises, united, respected, applauded for handling the mess with class. On the other, the Frosts, dragged, mocked, drowning in scandal, their reputations shredded beyond repair. Kirk was exposed as the manipulator, Rasheeda as the betrayed betrayer, and Jasmine as the villain no one wanted. Spice, caught in the Sao Bao crossfire, lost her credibility as a neutral player. The loyalty war wasn't just over, it was a massacre, and the winners were clear. Atlanta crowned Team Harris the champions. Blogs wrote think pieces calling Mendeecees the model husband, fans flooded Yandy's comments with love, and the couple became the blueprint for how to survive a reality TV war with grace. The Frosts, meanwhile, were left in ashes, their brand, their image, and their credibility shattered. And the streets never forget. The loyalty war would live on in memes, in quotes, in receipts replayed 1,000 times. But the final chapter was clear. Yandy and Mendeecees stood tall, while Rasheeda and Kirk fell apart.